What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Evolution Cup running my shiny Shadow Metang. Now this is a Pokemon that you never see in the Go Battle League, but in a restricted meta where there are a ton of dragon types running rampant and there really aren't a lot of counters, Metang actually has a lot of play. As well, because of that psychic typing, it only takes neutral damage from Vigoroth's counters, meaning that's not actually that bad of a matchup. Unfortunately, the thing holding Metang back is its fast moves. It only learns Metal Claw and Zen Headbutt, which are both rubbish fast moves, and in the Open Great League it does mean that it loses quite a lot of neutral matchups, but we don't really care about the neutral matchups in this cup because there are a ton of dragon types and also quite a lot of ice types to counter those dragons, and Metang does do very well in all of those matchups, aside from the Zweilous because it does have that Dark Pulse to hit for super effective damage because of the psychic typing. Now the team that I built doesn't really make an awful lot of sense, but I already had a Legacy Purified Machoke with Cross Chop and Return, so I wanted to give it a try. Unfortunately it doesn't pair well with the Metang, so I'm going to be substituting it for a Haunter later in the video, and I will also be using Machoke in my next video, so do watch out for that. But with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Aside from Vigoroth and Frostlass, which Pokemon that doesn't see an awful lot of play in the Open Great League is often the top meta when it comes to these themed cups? Let me know in the comment section below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle here, we lead into a Golbat, so a pretty good lead for us. My opponent is going to swap into Vigoroth, so we swap here with the Machoke. We're going to let the Body Slam go through. This will do quite a lot of damage, and it does mean that if my opponent wants to, they can double shield and flip this switch advantage, but I'm not really too fussed about that because Dusclops can still do very well up 2 shields up against the Golbat. So we go for the back-to-back cross chops there, we get both shields, and also I'm going to come in with the Dusclops here. Bulldoze really isn't going to do too much damage here, and we should be able to get to an Ice Punch to take out this Vigoroth, and we will see what my opponent wants to do from here. We take out the Vigoroth, they come back in with the Golbat. I'm going to go for an Ice Punch. My opponent actually goes for a Poison Fang straight away. I'm happy to let this go through. I'm actually going to swap now into the Metang, and my opponent has a Piloswine, so they have a Pokemon weak to the Steel typing, but we're going to come in with the Metang, take them out here, and now we should be able to easily take out this Golbat with 2 shields remaining, so Metang able to core break that team there and take that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Dusclops, so a very bad lead here, and this is where I realised that, yeah, this is a pretty rubbish team, and it's very fortunate that my opponent is staying in here because they're also probably very weak to the ghost typing. So we're going to go for a Shadow Punch that really doesn't do an awful lot of damage, and you can see the opponent is doing more damage to me than I'm doing to them, so that is definitely the IVs coming into play. I'm going for another Shadow Punch. We do get the first shield from my opponent, and at this point I really can't use both my shields, so I will let the Dusclops go down. And I'm going to have to come in with the Metang. We will take super effective damage in this matchup, but at least I will be able to fast move them down. We're going to shield up the first Shadow Punch here. It's not going to do that much damage, but my opponent actually swaps into a Celio here. I don't know what they thought there, but this is pretty good for us now. I'm going to wait until they throw a charge move here. I'm assuming if they're going for Aurora Beam and Body Slam, we do resist it. And actually, because they go for the Body Slam, I'm going to tank a second one here before I eventually swap into the Machoke, and I will be able to fully Karate Chop, farm down this Celio after they reach another Body Slam here, but I'm able to farm them down here. And we're going to see what they come in with now. They're going to come in with a Piloswine. They catch the charge move here, but that's perfectly fine. I really wanted to get rid of the Dusclops there, so that is good. I'm going to go for the Cross Chop here. This should be getting the final shield, and I'm able to get to another Cross Chop before my opponent throws their energy. Cross Chop does huge damage, and I'm able to Karate Chop, farm down the Piloswine, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Got pretty lucky that they didn't have any answer to the Dusclops of my own, but really this team composition isn't the best. I'm going to let my opponent throw a charge move here. It's actually just a Brick Break, so they have not used an Elite TM on this Machoke. I'm going for the Psy Shock, and then I will swap into my Dusclops here because we can completely wall this Pokemon. They're going to swap very late into a Golbat. We're going for the Ice Punch. This will do quite a lot of damage to the Golbat or get a shield. I'm able to get the shield. I'm able to get to another Ice Punch. Dusclops super spammy here. Ice Punch does land. It does a decent amount of damage. I don't think I'm going to shield at this point. Actually, I do shield. It's just a Poison Fang bait, which is unfortunate, but my opponent goes for another charge move, wanting to get off their energy before I get to an Ice Punch, but it does mean I can now overfarm, go for a Shadow Punch, and at this range, Shadow Punch does take out the Golbat. They come in with their own Dusclops, so once again, I've realized that we're in a very tricky situation because my Dusclops is extremely low. I'm going to swap into my Metang here. They come back in with the Machoke. They go for a charge move. They don't farm down. They think I'm going to get to another charge move, which is really fortunate for me because now at this point, my only play here is to fully Karate Chop farm down this Machoke. I'm thinking that this Brick Break is probably going to do more damage than a Shadow Punch or an Ice Punch from the Dusclops because Dusclops doesn't hit very hard, but I remember it is a purified Dusclops. They're going to be running return, so I swap here, catch the charge move, and I'm able to catch the return. My opponent undercharges it. They get one extra hex through, and at this point I think I need to go for the return. Then I look up at their HP. They've got no HP remaining, so I go for the cross chop. I'm able to take out the Dusclops, and Machoke is a Dusclops counter confirmed. Into the next game, we lead into another Golbat, so a good lead for us. My opponent is staying in here, and this is when I realised that actually is not that good of a lead because my opponent is going to bait me with a Poison Fang. Feels bad. They swap here into the Vigoroth. This does give me a lifeline because I can comfortably win this matchup or get both shields from my opponent. So I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back cross chops here. They should now just receive the energy for their next Body Slam. We get a shield here. My opponent goes for the counter down, so they are prepared to use both shields. No, actually they're not. They're just going to let the Vigoroth go down, and then they're going to come back in with the Golbat. I'm going to go for a Psyshock straight away. Wasn't really keeping track of their energy. It's another Poison Fang bait. Oh my days, that is really frustrating. Golbat, just as annoying as Nidoqueen in this meta, in my opinion. They're going to come in with a Zweilous here, and this is really tricky. I'm going for the Gyro Ball. We get it shielded, and they have to throw a Dark Pulse from this range. Unfortunately, the Metal Claws really don't do that much damage. They haven't added up enough, and unfortunately from this range, I just don't think an Ice Punch is going to be enough to take out the Zweilous. It isn't enough, and my opponent is able to get to another Dark Pulse, and this will be taking out the Dusclops, and I do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, and at this point we have finally switched out that Machoke for a Haunter, and we lead into a Zweilous this time, so this is actually very strong against my entire team, but because of our steel typing, we do resist the Dragon Breath, so this matchup is actually fairly close. I'm going for a very risky bait with the Psyshock. Psyshock gets shielded, and now I am going to shield again. I really want to maintain this matchup. They go for a Body Slam bait, which is a frustrating thing, but I'm going to overfarm here, force my opponent to try and throw their energy straight away, and it is just another Body Slam. I'm going to swap into Haunter here. My opponent panics, they switch into a Golbat. I'm not really sure if an Ice Punch will KO from this range, so I go straight for the Shadow Ball, and oh yeah, I am running Shadow Ball instead of Shadow Punch for that closing capability, but they go for a Poison Fang. That is double resisted. We do tank it, we go for an Ice Punch, and from this range, it does take out the Golbat. They come back in with the Zweilous here. I'm going to go for the Psyshock here, up against the Zweilous, even double resisted. It does take them out. I'm very close to the next charge move, but I swap into my Dusclops and into a Vigoroth. This is a very neutral matchup when shields are down. They go for a Bulldoze. That does a decent amount of damage. I'm going for an Ice Punch here. Ice Punch doesn't do that much damage, but I can spam them a lot faster than Vigoroth can with its Bulldoze. So we go for another Ice Punch there, and can we get to another Ice Punch? Yes we can, but it's a CMP tie. But it's just a Body Slam, so that is fine. We do tank that very comfortably. We're going to go and land this Ice Punch, and Ice Punch is enough to take out the Vigoroth, and I take that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Piloswine, a Shadow Piloswine, so a very good lead. My opponent swaps into a Dragonair, so still a very good matchup, but we do have two Ghost types in the back, so I'm thinking perhaps if they do have something stronger or something better against my Ghost types, I'm eventually going to swap into the Dusclops now, and I should be able to get to an Ice Punch. They did go for a Body Slam up against the Metang, so I predict that they're running Dragon Pulse, and they were. I overfarm here, probably could have just gone for a Shadow Punch, but I play it safe, I go for the Ice Punch, and we do take out the Dragonair. They're going to come back in with the Piloswine. I'm going for a Shadow Punch. It really doesn't do that much damage, but I'm able to get to another Shadow Punch before they can get to an Avalanche. Shadow Punch does land, and now I'm going to swap here, catch the charge move, predicting that they would throw at that point. It is an Avalanche, it actually doesn't KO, and they're able to swap into a Shadow Marsh Stomp and get a Mud Shot energy advantage, which will make the difference in this matchup. Well, if Haunter had an energy advantage, we would be in the clear, but unfortunately, there's no way we can win this matchup, so I'm going for the Ice Punch here, and I will be able to get the final shield from my opponent, but they're going to throw their charge move straight away. I realise they're 5 Mud Shots away from the next charge move, so I'm able to go for 3 hexes, go for the charge move. We barely survive with 1 HP, we take out the Marsh Chop, and we have the back-to-back charge moves loaded. We get to another Shadow Punch takes out the Piloswine, and somehow we clutch out that game where it really looked like we were in a very bad spot. So GG's to that opponent. Into the next game, we lead into a Haunter, awful lead. I'm going to swap straight away into the Dusclops. My opponent throws straight away, so I get a full 3 hex through. They go for the Shadow Punch, of course. We're going for our own Shadow Punch. This will take out the Haunter, so they are going to shield it, and we actually get to another Shadow Punch before the Haunter can get to its next Shadow Punch because of that 3 hex we got through. They actually farm up to the second Shadow Punch there and switch out with the energy loaded, so that is something that I need to bear in mind at the end of this matchup here. My opponent throws just before I get to another Ice Punch, so very good counting on their end. I'm going to come in with the Metang here, just fully tank this Bulldoze and then swap into my Haunter so we can get a massive energy advantage on the other Haunter. I'm going to farm up here. I kind of wasn't keeping track of the energy, so I do shield it up. It's just a Body Slam. We throw 1 Shadow Claw, tried to go for the Ice Punch, but for some reason, I don't really know what happened there, but it didn't register, and we do get an extra Shadow Claw through, and they're able to Shadow Claw farm me down, so I'm pretty sure I did tap on the move there, but unfortunately not able to pull it off. Very good play by my opponent though, so GG's to them. Into the next game, we lead into a Celio. A very good matchup for us, especially because they're typically going to be running Aurora Beam as the second charge move. Body Slam doesn't do an awful lot of damage. I'm going to stay in for a while, go for a Gyro Ball. This will, I think, do more damage than a Psyshock, and it does land, and at this point I'm going to tank this next charge move, and eventually I am going to swap out into the Dusclops because I don't want to be too low in case they do have a very good response to the Ghost typing. So I'm now going to swap. Unfortunately, they do get to another Aurora Beam. That does quite a lot of damage actually, considering it's not the best move, and Celio is pretty tanky, but we're going for a Shadow Punch here. We should be able to get to 1 more, and we are at the back-to-back, so we will get both shields from this Haunter. And that is nice, but a loaded Haunter is a very scary prospect, so we're going to come in with the Metang, hoping they don't throw straight away, and they don't, so I'm able to get to another Psyshock, and Psyshock takes out the Haunter. They have a Shadow Machoke, and this is going to be the most comfortable matchup you've probably ever seen. I'm actually going to just let the charge move go through. It's a dynamic punch, it's triple resisted, so even from a Shadow attack weighted Pokemon, that does absolutely nothing. I'm able to Shadow Ball, take out the Machoke, and I take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead Metang into Vigoroth, so we're going to stay in initially and eventually try and swap to catch the Bulldoze here. We do swap one fast move early, so maybe not the best timing there, but they still go for the Bulldoze anyway. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm going to go for an Ice Punch here just as they get to the Body Slam, trying to force them to throw their energy straight away, and they do throw their energy here, and this Body Slam is double resisted. It doesn't take me out, but unfortunately the Dragon Breath does, so that's one of the inconsistent game mechanics there. Sometimes you're able to get the charge move off, sometimes you're not, and unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to. But at this point, I'm going to fully Metal Claw, farm down the Zweilous. I have 100 energy, going for the Psyshock up against this Vigoroth. We get the first shield, we're going for the second one. This should land or get the second shield, and it does land. We're going to swap into Haunter now. They're going to farm up a lot of energy. we are gonna shield up the charge move here. It is a bulldoze, so a very good shield. They swap into a Dragonair. We're going for the Ice Punch. Ice Punch will do huge damage. We have the back-to-back, but it goes through. And unfortunately for me, they do manage to get off the charge move there when my fast move went through. So another inconsistency swinging in their favor, but I'm able to Metal Claw, farm down the Vigoroth, and I'm still able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Haunter. So once again, going to swap instantly into the Dusclops. And once again, they throw straight away. So big misplay there. They should farm up one more Shadow Claw. I'm going for a Shadow Punch up against this Piloswine. It really doesn't do an awful lot of damage. I'm going to go for another one there. Shadow Punch does land again, and at this point I'm pretty happy to just let the Dusclops go down. They do throw fairly early. They didn't want to take another Shadow Punch because that would be pushing their HP very low. So I'm going to swap into the Metang here, and I'm able to farm them down before they get to another Avalanche. And once again, my opponent gets off the charge move just as my fast move is going through. So that is going to end up costing me the game here, because with a Haunter and a Metang and one shield, this should be okay. But when I'm now down a shield, there's not a lot I can do. So I will just let this charge move go through, hoping they go for a body slam, and they do. But unfortunately, the counters will just add up over time, and I'm not going to be able to get to 2 side shocks. And this Vigoroth is able to take me out, and I do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there. And into the final battle of this video, we lead into another Vigoroth. This time I am going to farm up to exactly when they get to a Bulldoze and then swap into the Dusclops, but once again they're going to throw anyway, so that catch doesn't really matter. They go for the Bulldoze, they swap into a Hakamoto. We're going for the Ice Punch. This will do quite a lot of damage to the Hakamoto. We do get a shield from them, and they're going to throw their energy straight away, so I'm fine with that. They go for a Dragon Claw. It takes me out. I'm going to come back in with the Metang. We do resist the dragon damage, and as well, because this is a sub fighting type, we do deal super effective damage with the Psyshock. So Psyshock takes them out. They're going to come back in with Vigoroth. We do get to another Psyshock, and this will do a lot of damage to the Vigoroth. We're going to swap into Haunter. Once again, we will shield this up, and then we should be able to Shadow Claw, farm them down. They go for a Body Slam bait, unfortunately, but they come in with Golbat, and they go for a charge move straight away. Poison Fang, double resisted, doesn't warrant a shield. We're going for the Ice Punch. This will do huge damage to the Golbat. We're able to Shadow Claw, farm them down, and at this point, we should still be able to Shadow Claw, farm down the Vigoroth, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, then make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you're not yet subscribed and you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications, so that way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous video. So firstly, we got Arjun Joshua, who says they live in Mespritz region and hosted so many raids for people to get it into their decks that they actually had enough candies to max out and double move a hundo, and that's exactly what they did. It's not a very good Pokemon, but it is very spicy. Next, we got James Stroz, who says they maxed a 98% Shadow Pinsir and they have no regrets on the Stardust and candies used. That is a very spicy Pokemon in the Master League. And finally, we got Jay Dabs, who says they powered up a double Legacy Omastar for the Master League, and that is some insane spice there. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.